We have made it to the month of October. So what are the best stocks to buy this month? And what are the things we should absolutely steer clear of in October? Let's go ahead and break it down. So October is my favorite month for very, very obvious reasons. But there are also some historical things that we should know to be aware of. And it's also an election year, which has some historical significance as well when it comes to October. And I pulled together a very exclusive list of some great stocks that you should also be aware of. So let's first set the table as always and talk about just the month of October in general. Now, last month, and really August, if we want to be more specific, we had talked about the month of September and how historically, September tends to be the worst month. And right after that is October. And October is usually the second worst month historically. And just like I said in that video about September, just because it is the historical worst month doesn't mean that that month is going to be negative or that it has to be negative. For example, if every month this year is up 10%, which it has not, okay, it is not, and September comes in and is only 9%, which is just a 1% drop off, then it's the worst month. That doesn't mean it's bad. A 9% gain is good, but it's not as good as 10%. Okay, it dropped off by 1%. That's it. Now, last I checked, September was a good month for the stock market, and it was a relatively good month for the entire economy. Even inflation slowed down a bit more, and the Fed did cut interest rates, and it is something that we did mention in that video as well. But now the calendar has turned. We're in October. And yes, there are some obstacles that you should be aware of. I don't think, at least right now, I don't think that is going to take us off course. But here are the things you should know of, and then we'll get into those stocks. Because again, I want you to be educated, and I want you to know what is on the horizon and be prepared for the good, okay? And also any potential bad as well, because it ain't all sunny. Okay, I want you to get all the benefits, but I don't want you to take a long walk off a short cliff. Okay, don't want you to go into things blind. All right, so again, October does historically tend to be like the second worst month, one of the worst months. Again, I would argue that this time, and I did a whole video about September, you can check out that video here. October, I would say, in defense of my favorite month, because my birthday is in October, I would say it's more just bad luck because you had Black Monday was in October, you had the Great Depression just happened to start in October, so you had those really bad days that just happened to fall in that calendar. So that is just a part of it. But we are, what, 40 days, maybe 39 days or so less, but let's just call it less than 40 days until the election. You do have, I forget the exact term, the October surprise is the exact term, where something crazy can happen that can have an impact in politics, and sometimes, not always, that can have an impact on the election. Now, I don't know what that thing is. That's why it's called a surprise. Okay, these things can sometimes impact the stock market. Sometimes they have absolutely nothing to do with the stock market. Sometimes it can be a videotape, it can be a recording, sometimes it can be an international conflict, which is brewing right now at the time that we are recording this, hopefully for humanitarian efforts. We hope that that's not the case. Again, for bigger reasons than the stock market, we hope that is definitely not the case. But that is something to have on your radar. Right now, I don't think that is going to be it. But again, it's a surprise. We don't know what that thing is. Also, the economy, though, the U.S. economy, this is the one that I think we need to zoom in on the most. We did already get one rate cut. Fed Chair Jerome Powell did hint that there could be another one. I did not see at what month or at what his time frame was going to be. Here is what we do know. Job mobility has slowed down at its worst point, if you want to call it a worst point, in the last few years. What I mean is, there was at one point, we had talked about this before, about 2 years or so ago, where it was the best time for you to switch jobs. Right, there were more openings than there were people, and you could bid up prices between job offers. It was very, very easy. There was a labor shortage. That is not the case anymore. Unemployment is up to 4.2%. Now, 4.2 contextually is relatively low, but it is still a 3-year high. Okay, now again, if I zoom out, I think the pandemic was close to 9, almost 10%. If I go all the way back to 2008, it was even higher. So it's still less than 5, which is still very, very, very good. But in a condensed timeline, it's still the highest that we've been in the last like 2 to 3 years. So it has crept up just a bit. That's not something that anybody likes. But again, less than 5%, most of us would sign off and say, okay, that's cool. But that is something to raise an eyebrow. And again, you don't see people switching jobs as often. You don't see people saying, look, I got 3 job offers. I can do whatever I want and just leave. Or just say, look, I got this job is paying me $100,000. The other one's paying $110,000. Can you match? They're paying $120,000. Can you match? You're not really seeing that as often anymore. We used to see signs saying help wanted, we're paying extra. You're not really seeing that anymore. Things have leveled off, and that is starting to really show in the economy. How is that going to play out in the stock market? How is that going to play out for these companies? And really, how's that going to play out for the fourth quarter of the year, which is going to show up in earnings? And obviously that is going to be the thing that's going to impact on the stock market. Now, with all of that, what are the stocks that have succeeded so far and the ones that are going to succeed here in the near future? I've got a list of what looks like 7 that I think are going to be the absolute best. The first here, now I'll just give you a quick preview. There are 2 that we've talked about before, 3 that we've actually absolutely talked about before. One I've been really, really quiet about, but you saw me invest in it if you were paying attention, especially in our members only. And there have been one I've just been sprinkling in, and another that we have come back to. It's a household name, but it is back again. I think it's about to take off. So first one here is KKR. This is a finance company. It is the one that I've been very, very quiet on. Once I invested in December of last year, I think you guys have seen it in my public portfolio. Real quiet about it. I talked about when I invested in it and just left it there. It's, I ain't really talking. It's a boring company, but is up 35% in the last 6 months, up 110% over last year. I mean, it's still boring, but it is still up. Okay, so the company is doing quite well, which is something I absolutely enjoy. This next company is one that I have been sprinkling at, just kind of taking water and just kind of throwing it at you. I don't know how many people have been listening to me about this stock. They also did a stock split. Walmart is good. It is a good stock, and it has been a good stock for a good chunk of this year, y'all. So Walmart is up 35% in the last 6 months and up 52% this year, or over the last year to be exact. It not only, again, did that stock split, we are still going into the holiday season. The economy, though I did give some teetering stats, we are still okay. And I think we're going to definitely be okay for the rest of 2024, provided some catastrophic event. I would say they're gonna make it for the rest of this year, and Walmart is going to be also, should things turn negative, they're still a good defensive stock as well. They are not a world beater, invincible stock. I don't really believe in invincible stocks, but they are one of the things and one of the companies right now, not forever, but right now, one of the things that I think can get as close as you can get to that outside of something like a Costco. But right now, Walmart needs to be somewhere close to the top of your watch list. Next here is Carrier. I feel like I've talked about Carrier like once or twice, perhaps not enough, up 36% in the last 6 months and up 48% over the last year. If you haven't noticed so far on this list, I have been picking all over the map. I want to give you a diverse perspective. I've done a list within the last 2 weeks about all tech. I've done lists all about finance. So I want to give you, again, give me some finance, give me some defensive stocks, give me some industrial stocks. So I'm picking all over the map to give you a diversified look and things to give you that not everybody else is talking about and what everybody else is already investing in. I like to give you things under the radar. That's why you subscribe. That's why you are, signing up for classes and resources like my guide on how you can invest in your first stock in about 10 minutes or less. If you want to get that free PDF guide, you can sign up for that link right here. All right, let's go ahead and continue. CBRE, they're a real estate company. They are up 27% in the last 6 months. Real estate stocks usually do quite well and pay pretty solid dividends, generally speaking. Also up 67% over the last 6 months. Now, this is the part where we have to talk about the household name, okay? And the household name is one I had not mentioned in a very, very long time, at least not in a positive light. That is Apple. Apple is up 31% in the last 6 months and up 33% in the last year. Now, if you run that line back, you will notice that those two numbers are very even, which means that you are looking at a chart of Apple. They took a very significant dip at some point in the year, okay? Apple has not done great, right? At least not to Apple's standards, with the exception of this very recent boom that they are having. Their normal Apple boom. But Apple is getting back to doing Apple things. Now, I would argue, and the reason why I have not sold Apple, and the reason why I haven't called a Nike video or done a Nike style video on Apple is for that reason. It is for reasons exactly like this. There was no reason for Apple to fall the way that it did. I think the one time I said something about Apple is like, Apple isn't, I'm not excited to buy Apple, but I'm still holding Apple. That's the only thing I said about Apple probably this whole year. Okay, now they have spent, quote unquote, a lot of money on movies that haven't done well at the box office. The quality is hit and miss. They did Killers of the Flower Moon, they did Argyle, trash. Killers of the Flower Moon won a lot of awards. TV, again, hit and miss, but they brought in revenue over $380 billion. I think they spent somewhere between $500 to $700 million on movies. Them numbers do not compare. Okay, so whatever they spending and burning on movies and entertainment is nothing compared to what they are bringing in revenue. The Apple Vision Pro, who cares at this point? Okay, they got the money. And Apple finally crossed one of the moving average indicators that I look at when I am really getting excited about a stock. I've talked a lot about this inside of our members only, so feel free to go back and review that if you're inside of our members only. But that is something that's also exciting. I would also go back and check to see what the insider buyers are doing for Apple. I don't know at this time, but after this video, I'm gonna go check. I'm gonna go check and see what the insiders are doing with Apple too, because it has had a very significant shift. And to be honest with you, Apple's doing what they should have been doing this entire time, but they have had an absolute turnaround. And we did talk too about Warren Buffett selling, right? He did sell a significant portion of his Apple shares too, because I think at one point he was sick of it, right? So things are finally starting to turn in the right direction for the company, and I'm all here for it. And it might be time. It might be time once again to start loading up on shares of Apple. But we are not done yet with the list. We got another one here. That is Palantir. There is somebody, I wish I remember the name, that has been quite loud up in these here comments about Palantir. I have heard you, sir or madam. I think it was a sir. They're just screen names, okay? And the things are really tiny for me to see faces and stuff. I apologize, okay? But I heard you, and I saw your comments. You was right about Palantir. I read the comments. Palantir has been really, really good. And this is the second time I mentioned it, okay? This ain't the first time. Palantir is up 58% in the last 6 months, up 127% over last year. I do have a strong affection for cybersecurity companies. Palantir is one of the most famous ones, and they have done quite well very recently. So I would dig more into it. If you guys want a deeper dive breakdown, I actually did one years ago. I can do a refresh version if you want me to. If you want me to, let me know in the comments. Again, I'll be reading them comments, so feel free to let me know down there if you want a more updated version of that. If you want to see the older version, you can check that out right here. The next one is one we have talked about before, and it has gotten a lot more buzz recently, even though I have been talking about it for a very long time, and that is Constellation Energy. Now, some people have known me, I'm not that well known, but people have known me for talking about NRG. NRG had done well, and it's still doing pretty good. CEG, Constellation Energy Group, is also doing well. Another company I invested in. We did a whole video about investing in energy stocks, how billionaire investors were also investing in energy stocks. So why you want to subscribe to the channel? I do be telling y'all, okay? We did a whole video about investing in energy stocks. CEG is the stock symbol here, up 43% in the last 6 months and up 143% over the last year. I repeat, up 143% over the last year. It's about to get cold. Energy stocks might continue to do well as things get cold and, you start going into your fall and winter routines. As we go back through, in case you missed all of the ticker symbols, CEG for Constellation Energy, PLTR for Palantir, Apple, I think you know Apple if you're watching this channel, you know the ticker symbol for Apple, CBRE is the stock symbol there, CARR for Carrier, WMT for Walmart, and then KKR. I actually don't know what KKR stands for. I think that is the name of the company, but KKR is for KKR, the financial company there. And again, they were up 129%, 110% over last year. And of these, three of these stocks up more than 100% over last year. So we have an absolute fire list from all parts of the stock market landscape. So these are the ones you absolutely want to put on your watch list if you want more to look at and learn from when it comes to the stock market. I've got a few lists from specific sectors, so more about energy, more about finance, more about technology stocks. You want to drill down and dig even deeper. These are the videos that you want to watch next.